Okay, so if everybody is ready to go, I'm going to go over the process, although it's adequately presented in that rendering, in that video. And then more and more, I'm impressed with Blender's capability for mapping. There's a couple of other really great plugins. One, it allows you to work with OSM data, and it just like more and more Blender GIS workflows are I think becoming more capable than Rhino 1. So I think as an architect, I end up using both because it just becomes so fast for generating this. So to get started with this workflow, one thing you want to make sure is that you're using Chrome, and the fact that your Chrome tabs are closed. So you cannot have instance of Chrome open. So you want to close everything. And then in the video, it talks about generating a shortcut for Chrome. And basically, you want to have that handy, and you want to have, as I said, Chrome closed, but then double click on the shortcut. And basically what this does is giving me a port to work with. So it's giving me a PID. So you want to know what that number is. So it gives me a PID, which is 21192, 21192. I can either write it down or remember it. It doesn't go away, but I need to know this in order for me to actually extract the map. So 21192. So while you have this open, you want to go ahead and launch RenderDoc. So I'm going to open RenderDoc, and I need to connect to that PID. And RenderDoc, I recommend using version 1.9. And here I'm going to go to File and tell it to inject into process, File, inject into process. And I'm going to look for that PID here. So that was 211. For me, for you, it's going to be different. 21192, right? So you can either scroll through it or find the number here. And that's what I want to connect to, right? So that's my Google Chrome GPU. So if you double click it, then, sorry, I shouldn't have double clicked. I'm going to open my RenderDoc again. I should have just clicked once. I'm going to open it again and go to File, Inject into Process, 2119. So select it, and while it's selected, all the way down here, tell it to inject. So tell it to inject, and we should be ready to go. So all you need to do is to just tell it to inject. Then you want to wait here and go back to your Chrome and close your PID. Now your Chrome is going to be launched again, but you're going to see that it's actually tracking your activity in Chrome. So what I want to do next is to look for the map that I'm looking for. So in this case, I'm going to go to Google Maps. And in Google Maps, you want to work with the satellite view, satellite images, and find where it is that you want to extract. So I can be working in LA, I can work in New York. I tend to like New York for visualization because of the density of the buildings. It looks good, but I could also work anywhere. So perhaps select the city that you're working with. So in this case, I'm going to select Manhattan again. And you want to select the area that you want. So the resolution of your mesh, the resolution of your buildings are going to be based on your zooming factor. So I've done some studies, and basically when you get close to about 500 or so, even to 200s, you're able to get really, really high resolution. So you end up getting even, every bush, every tree. So it's really kind of interesting how much detail you can extract from the images. So around 500 or 200, you're going to be able to construct a really, really good city. Now, the problem is because basically this method is working with satellite tiles, obviously more zoomed in you are, then more of the importing and tiling you need to do. And basically this is working with whatever is capturing on your screen. And let's say I'm going to go with something like this. So whatever your window is, just selected, whatever is seen on your window, then go back to your render doc. And you want to then click on this option called capture frames immediately. So you want to click on this, but then go back to your maps. And usually, like if you wiggle it a little bit, I've seen that actually that gives you better results. And what you're looking for is a snapshot of basically what is being generated in your maps, right? Now, there is one verification here because sometimes you need to redo this process if you don't have the depth channels from this, right? Depth channels is what's going to create the 3D. So after this, if I have something I'm going to check, I'm going to double click on this. And it is gonna, so it basically extracts the map that I'm looking at, and I do look at this and I see that I don't have the depth channels. So this should be 2 and 3 this way. So I'm gonna do this one more time to be able to see if I can get the depth. So usually you should get this in 1 or 2. Actually, I believe this should be fine. So I'm gonna extract it and see the results. I might need to come back and do this one more time. So if you only see one channel, so usually that doesn't capture the depth, but depending on the area, you might have multiple channels. So after this process, what you wanna do is you wanna, right now, there is the image that's being generated. We can then save it to a version that we can open in Blender and look at the 3D model. So for Blender to open this model from this process, we want to go to File. We want to go to Save Capture As. So that's File, Save Capture As. And I'm going to, I already have a folder here called Manhattan. I'm going to give it today's name. Today's date, June 29th, and ultimately select it, give it a name. I'm gonna say Manhattan, June 29th, and you wanna save this as RDC model. So RDC is actually the only option it gives you, but that's the file type that we're gonna be needing to open in Blender. So I'm gonna save this. And I'm gonna go and open Blender. And once you open the Blender, the step before this, you wanna make sure that you have the plugin installed, which goes over it in the beginning of video. To install plugins, basically under Edit, you go to Preferences, and all the plugins, they would be installed as zip file under add-ons. So in this case, this specific, you should be able to, once you install it, you could see it as your checked options. So to import the model in Blender, you want to go to File, you want to go to Import, and you want to select the RDC file, which is Google Maps Capture default file format that Blender already recognizes. And once you set the file to that RDC format, go ahead and find the 3D model that you captured. In this case, I have it in a folder called Manhattan on the 29th, and I'm gonna
go up, yeah.
What is it?
Go up the folder because you didn't save the file.
Sorry. Let's see.
Let's go to Manhattan folder. And you can see the file that you just captured.
Give me a second. File, import RDC. And
desktop.
Yeah, let me just go here. Manhattan. Oh, yeah, sorry, it's here.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you. And why is it invalid? Oh, okay. I'm gonna open another one. It should be. It takes 2 seconds. It takes a few seconds for it to load.
Mm-hmm.
And it should center it in the view. I'll give it a minute. It should load, and Blender comes with a generic box, a camera, and a light. And once you import the model, initially you're not going to see the texture, but if you go to your viewport shading, you should see the model with texture. So I'm going to repeat this one more time. When I'm capturing this, this should actually give me channel 2 and channel 3. So I didn't redo that part, so that's why I wasn't able to open this, but this is one that I did previously, and that's the one that's imported in Unity. But that is ultimately the workflow. I'm going to try this one more time. And I encourage you to just try this and just try a different city, a different area. And let's think about this as the data that you want to match, right? So in this case, it could be the city you're in, or again, if you want to try New York. I'm going to try this one more time. And I'm going to right click and delete this. And what you want to make sure is that you're in map view. That's fine. Here, I'm gonna go back to file, inject into process. That's already set up, so I can just do capture frames immediately. Go back here. Usually I move it a little bit. It generates another one. And it seems like it also didn't do it again. Is anybody able to get the here where it says targets 2 and targets 3? Of course, these things, when you want to do a demo, it doesn't work. But let me see. I'm gonna just restart this. So what's the key this time? 21884. Eject 21884. Inject it here. Gonna close this. Open it here. Google Maps. If you have its location saved, let me try Los Angeles this time. Should be fine. Back to here. Capture frames. Okay, there we go. So this should work this time because not only it gives me the targets, but it also says plus depth. And that's what we need for us to extract the 3D. So if it doesn't have the depth, so that's basically the band of the satellite that is able to then be interpolated as depth, then we're not able to see the texture. And sometimes, you know, I have to do it a couple of times. Often it works the first time, but obviously not today. And I'm gonna save this again, going to go to File, Save Capture As. I'm gonna make a new folder for Los Angeles. And call that Los Angeles. And save it as RDC, save. Then if I go back to Blender, go to File, Import, RDC, and find the Los Angeles one, import. There it is, right? So this time, because I had depth, then I was able to do this. So what I exported was from 1,000 feet up. So allowed me to get a larger area, but obviously it's not as high res. So if I want to get a more of a high res, then I would just zoom in and do this in parts. What you're going to find is that actually these are tiles, and the way that layers in Blender is set up, it comes in as tiles. And basically each tile is going to have its own texture map that then eventually when you're exporting, let's say as FBX, this is something that we need to package before exporting. So does everybody have a city that you can work with and import into Unity? Anybody has an interesting city to share? I'm curious to see what this looks like in other cities, if the resolution is good. Okay. All right, to export this as FBX for Unity, the best way is to, well, there's a couple of different ways we can do this. By default, when you're exporting for Unity, usually from Blender, you can go with FBX, which is motion builder format, or with OBJ. When you're exporting as OBJ, then basically what you also have generated is an MTL file, right? Your material file. I generally go with FBX as a default. It tends to work well, and especially for anything between Rhino and Unity, Maya Unity, and Blender and Unity. I wonder if anybody has other preferences. But to export this with texture, there's one step that we need to do. So if you go to your file and if you go to your export, FBX is going to be one of the options that we see here. And if we were to export this as is, and I'm going to save this into the same Los Angeles folder that I have here. If I then open this, let's say Los Angeles one. If I just export this as is, I'm not actually going to get all the textures associated with this. So what you could do is before you export, to go up here where it says path mode, and instead of just setting this up to auto, you want to set this up to this option called copy. So you want to also click on this option here which says embed textures. So drop down from auto, change that to copy, and you want to click on this option that says embed textures. Additionally, there's other features that you can change here. So for instance, in this case, I don't really have an animation, but let's say if you do any animation in Blender, you could definitely also bake, but that's not necessary. The other thing is your Y and Z up. We talked about this yesterday when you're working with modeling environments that are using X, Y, Z in a traditional way, your Z is going to be up. But any game engine or any, let's say, simulation engine, so Blender falls in between, I would say both. But in terms of coordinates, also it can be understood that way. So I would just keep this as is, and that should be it. And we can just tell it to export FBX. And that should be enough for us to be able to then relink the model in Unity. So I'm gonna wait for everybody to export something. Any questions so far?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
May I share my screen?
Yes, please.
So can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
So the tutorial has
yeah, injecting the process.
But
yeah,
here I don't have.
So I have a question because you have your Chrome open, right? So it does. You need to, for this to work, you actually need to have all your browser closed. So what you can do is close your browser, your Chrome browser.
This one?
No, your so basically, since you have Chrome open, then you're not able to do that because you need to basically change the mode. Right now, close the render dock again. And yeah, just close it here, X out of it. Great. So now launch the shortcut of your Chrome. So perhaps you created on your desktop, like the.
I have created this one.
Perfect. Yeah. Double click.
Just for your information, according to our chatting room, Bunzan said that like a version 1.9 is better than version 1.14. So he said like don't use the version 1.
Yeah, I got the same problem previously, so I uninstalled the version 1.14 and I installed the 1.9 instead.
Yeah. That's also, I said that in Discord. So you want to have that 1.9.
Okay.
But
yeah, so please uninstall the version 1.14.
Got it.
Yeah. So in theory, after this process, then if you go to render doc, you should do that. But then I agree that just uninstall this version and do 1.9. Let me send you a link to 1.9.
After then you do inject. My Chrome is still like all white, like my Chrome window. Is there anything that I should do to kind of kickstart Chrome again so that I can?
Yeah, can I see that? Can I see?
Yes, sure.
So if you go to for the version, if you guys go to renderdoc.org/builds, you'll see 1.9 there, and you can just download that. Paula, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm adopted here and I did the injection. So it says connection status established. And
so if you go to, so you then launch Chrome after or before?
Yes. Yeah. And yeah.
Let's try one more time. Sorry, can you close render doc and close Chrome? Okay. Do you have any other Chrome instance open? No, you don't.
No, they're all closed.
Okay. Yeah. So then run the
Yeah, I just write down this number.
Great. So 18942.
0. And then render doc file inject
18942. 18989. There you go. Yeah. Click on that and then tell it to inject. Then go to your Chrome and close where it says OK. Just OK that. There you go.
So close this one?
Yeah. And
right.
There you go.
Okay, awesome.
And, Google Maps.
So we are trying to basically hack.
Oh yeah, this is like hardcore.
I think the Google Map teams don't like this video.
I really don't think so, but the result is so good.
Right.
And you want to be in satellite view.
Are we in Australia?
Yeah.
Cool.
Melbourne.
Nice.
And
yeah, that's good. So right now this is going to be really high res, so that's good. You can try this. So then go to render doc, tell it to capture frames immediately. And then go to your Google Maps and pan, if you pan a little bit. Yeah, and I find that, okay, yeah. So I find the panning to work with depth, but I double click and let's just hope that it got the depth. Yeah, you should be good. So right now you can go to File and Save Capture As. And it's better to make a folder for this. So because if the texture packing doesn't work, we can also from Blender, we can extract the textures in the same folder. Yeah. Great. And that's it. Same.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, if you open Blender, then it should work. You just need to change your mode to a shaded mode, which is when you open, it's
All right. I just need to install.
all the way down, RDC.
Okay. Sorry, just a general question. If I let's say I want like a high resolution model, but I can't take like a snapshot big enough. So if I take multiple snapshots, when it exports, are the snapshots geolocated so that the tiles fall in place, or you have to compose them?
Yeah, great question. Let me show you an example. So I'm gonna open an example. So we're working on this project right now for Venice Biennale, and so this project is looking at Broadway as a cross section of New York. So we had to get like super high res street view, front view resolution. And this is actually how I came across this workflow, because even like with street view with a certain resolution, it's good enough. So the answer is that no, these do not have an awareness of longitude and latitude, so they don't have a projection plane unless you import them all at once. So what Blender does, it takes the centroid of all the tiles and it just centers it to your window. That's why, like, no matter how big or small you import this, you always end up where the camera focus is, right? But it's actually not a very difficult process, because these tiles are, you know, they're meshes, they have vertices, so you can easily just tile them together. I want to just walk you through a couple of other things. We were doing these assessments, and this was about resolution. So these are different zooming factors. So with so this is a zooming factor of 100, 200. Sorry, so these are all 200 zooming factors. But within Google Maps, what it does, it creates like 1,500, 200, and then 100. And within 200 is where we got the best result for an entire city. But these are number of scrolls. So, but I mean, it's really, really great. And with 100, you even have more resolution. So you're able to get like, you know, every street level detail. But obviously with this process, there's things that are missing. So we were working on Empire State, and we realized that the top of Empire State was missing. So we had to kind of give it a haircut with a little bit of a texture. And at the same time, and it's great, right? So you just add actually to the model. And at the same time, because the file size becomes quite large, so this entire Manhattan, and we started to, it was about like 1.5 gigabytes. So when we did it in parts, then you always need to make sure that you're linking textures back. But anyways, I highly recommend this workflow as a process.
No, that's awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so going back to this, I hope everybody has something to work with, and let me just share a code with you, and you're going to be able to just open and